Hello everyone, it's Amy and welcome back for Journaling on a Budget Starting Over. Today we're going to make a book plate for the front of our book, and we are going to finish our dangle, and I'll show you how this turned out. It stuck pretty nicely. On this one, the beads didn't quite touch each other. I think that maybe this string was a little bit in the way, but that's okay. They're stuck really well. And so this one, I just like the way that that looks, the way that it goes around the black beads. See this one. And that one turned out really well too. So I like that. I like how that turned out. Now, I've just kind of decided that I'm not going to stick it with the dangle because it kind of doesn't go. But definitely it can be used for something else, and we'll figure that out at another time. But I really like the way that those beads turned out. Move the light over here just a little bit. So, and we're going to work on the dangle while we're waiting for part of this to dry. So I'm going to set that aside. So what I've decided I want to do, because I want kind of like a book plate cover for the front. And then I want to put this around it like that. So I went around and I was trying to find something because I wanted to know how big this was. So I was testing different things, trying to figure out this one's pretty close, but it's still a little bit too small. And what I came up with was the inside of this tape will give me a circle that's going to go just barely to the outside of all of the beads. And that's really what I'm looking for. Either just inside or where the beads can kind of sit on top of it. So I'm going to use the inside of this circle. Now I could go around the outside. No, that would make it even bigger. Yeah, I'm going to go around the inside of this. That will give me one that's big enough for those beads to kind of sit up on top of. And so I'm going to set this aside so we can make the little book plate. Now what I have here, this is just a piece of fun foam. We use this often, and it's one of my favorite things to use. I'm just going to put this on here, and then I'm going to draw around it so that I can cut it out. And this will be our book plate that we can put some decoration on. So I'm just going to cut this off so it's easier to cut out. There we go. And remember, when you're cutting your fun foam, that all of the little extra bits that you cut off, you can keep those and use those to make stamps with. So don't throw them away, because you can just get a piece of cardboard and cut them into little bits, whether it be long little strips or triangles, or punch some circles out of them with your hole punch, and then just glue it to the cardboard, and you've got a really cool mixed media stamp. And you don't need much at all to make a pretty good size stamp. And I want to be careful because this is our actual book plate, so I wanted it to be pretty good. Oh, it's got a sticker on the back. Don't like that. It's not going to work. What about... Well, I'm going to paint it, so the pencil marks on there is not going to make that big of a deal. All right, so, and again, keep that. All right, now we need a pen that doesn't work, which I had one. This one I believe doesn't work. Where's the one that I always use? I don't know. Oh, here it is. Okay. And sometimes you'll find that when I have a pen that doesn't work, I put some washi tape on it, because then I know that pen does not work. But look at there. Now it wants to work. So a lot of times there's a little bit of ink in the tube, so when you let it sit for a really long time, it does run down to the tip. But if you try and use it, it's not going to go very far. But this works great as a drawing tool to draw on your, book plates, stamps, whatever you're doing, because then you don't get that ink that wants to mix with your paint, or if you're making a stamp and you're drawing on it, because when you draw on it, pushes back the fun foam, and that's what gives you your design. So you can even use that for stamping, which we've done a lot of times. But you don't want that ink mixing with your, if you're making a stamp out of it, with your ink pad, and then when you press it on your project, you have a problem. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw on this, and I really don't know what I'm going to draw on it. So let's, I know I kind of want to do something that goes out because that's what the other thing does. Maybe, okay, I'm going to start by putting a bit of a swirl in the middle and then take it out to the outside corner. Now we need to make sure that that is dented down enough. So I'm going to do it again. And I'm going to do it till I have a decent dent in my fun foam, so that when I paint it, it shows up. And that's the difference about this and making your own stamps. When you're making your own stamps, the wider that you make this, the wider mark you have on your stamp. And you don't necessarily really want that on a stamp, but on a book plate, you really do want it to show up. Okay, so now we've got this. And so then I just have to decide, what will I do next? And that's, that's the thing. It's just basically, and because I'm doing it so hard, it's really coming through on the back. I should have something more solid underneath, and see if this will help. I'm going to see if that will make it a little bit better, because this is very cushy right now. And then all you're doing is you're just doodling. So, but, and you have to just decide, how do you want that doodle to look? And I'm thinking maybe if I put kind of a triangle in here with little kind of like curved edges. And again, when you're making your book plate, you definitely want to make sure that you go over those areas really well. I'll bring this one up just a little bit more. And I'm going to kind of follow the curve of the outside of the circle. Now, the one thing I do have to remember, that which I wasn't just thinking about, is the beads are going to be out there by the edge. So I don't want to do too much super intricate there that might be covered up, that we really want to see. So then I just kind of did that. And maybe I should have actually just started one of these and had it almost complete so you didn't have to watch, but it's better to let you see what I'm doing. And sometimes I'll first just kind of do a little bit of a light line to see if it's what I want to do. And then go back in and really deepen it up. But once you put that line on there, it needs to be pretty close. Unless you're going to sketch it. You could sketch lightly with a pencil and just sketch it and just don't put dents in your foam. And then, which one was I just using? This one, I think. Okay, I'm just in that kind of a mindset right this second. Doing things a little bit oddly, but that is what it is. So I'm just going to kind of keep doodling and show you what it looks like kind of as I go here and there. So you could always fast forward through this part so you don't have to watch it. There we go. And again, you just kind of decide how you want to do it. I keep turning the book, but really I just want to turn this. See, first I'm going to start, do like that. Okay. So we are, let me see, what video is this? Oh, I think that this one, I think that this might be Thanksgiving Day. So our daughter is coming from Oklahoma. So she will be here on Thanksgiving Day. So that is really awesome with our grandbaby. And he is getting so big. He's going to be a year old in December. And she sent us a video the other day of him climbing out of his walker, which was kind of her safe place. Because if she had to go in and go to the bathroom or something like that, she could put him in his walker. He couldn't reach anything because he's so quick. And he has figured out how to get out of it. So she's going to be having fun. He's going to be running all over the place pretty soon because he is quick. He is such a good baby, too. I thank God that he is so good. So there we go. Just kind of like a little bit of a flowery form. Let me see, what else do I want to do on here? I'm trying to think because a lot of times you name your journal. So I'm wondering if I should leave an area here for whoever gets this journal to put the name of their journal on there. And they could even like cut a piece of paper and glue it to that area. We'll see. I'll think about that for just a second. So yeah, so if you're watching this today, and if it is Thanksgiving Day, because I'm trying to, I believe it's 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. And I do have next week's done, which means this would be the week of Thanksgiving, but I'm not exactly sure even how the dates are running right now. I kind of want to do the same thing over here. I'm just trying to figure out exactly how, where I want to start. There. Yeah. And we are going to go to my brother's for Thanksgiving. So that will be nice. The family will be together. Since we didn't get to all get together last year, it will be nice to have this time together. I kind of think it may be the last time that we get together for the holidays like this, because all of our kids are all grown with children of their own, and their children, especially my brother's children, are, you know, starting to get grown and have their own kids. So, yeah, I think that everybody will be doing Thanksgiving and Christmas and stuff at their own homes now that my mom and dad are gone. It was nice to be able to have everybody here every year. It was nice to be together. It was nice not having to be the one that had to travel, because everybody came here. It was nice to be the one that got to have the leftovers, because we always made enough to share and to have leftovers. So we usually ordered about a 25-pound turkey to a 30-pound turkey from the Amish. So this year I just ordered two 15-pound ones because I'm still going to make Thanksgiving dinner. And then I figured, because I like to make turkey soup and turkey crescents, which is with the crescents, like from Pillsbury or whatever. Except I usually get the Walmart brand. And then it's like turkey and onion and cream cheese. So good. Probably not good for you at all, but really good. And you bake them up and put gravy on top. So I like to have the leftovers. Okay, so this is what we have so far. And I really am, you know, I could still like put a bit of doodle in here. And then it can always be, a piece of paper can even be put even in the center. So let's, although then I have to figure out what to do next. I like the way that some of these are really going out that way. Just not sure what to do here. You know what? Then maybe that means I'm not supposed to do that part. I can leave that part so that a name can be added. Because if you want to just paint it on and not add a piece of paper, you can paint right on there or use a permanent marker. So we're going to leave it. That's as far as I'm going to take that. And then I want to paint it to kind of match the colors. So I think that looks good. And this is our top right here. And then we'll have this at the bottom. And so we have these colors that are going with it. And I'm not a fan of red, so I don't want to use that. The gold is okay, but I was really thinking that I really do like this kind of purpley blue color. So I am going to, I have a purple that's too purple, a blue that's too blue, and so I'm going to mix these two together and try and get something close to that color. And even though it looks like my palette's dirty, it's not, because I just turned it over so this side's clean. Okay, I am going to mix enough so that I don't have to try and match it again since I'm mixing it. And then if I have any extras, I can always use that for something else later. And throw it on a piece of paper and let me see. Yep, that one's all dried out at the top. So, ooh, let's see. Get a toothpick here. This is called Ceramicoat. Whoops. So I'm not sure. See if it actually... Oh, it definitely still has color to it. It's just very, very thick. I have to figure out what to do with this now. Okay, we'll put that over there. Because I thought when I shook it, I thought it shook. So I am going to try that again. Nope, it's not shaking. Just want to make sure that there wasn't something in the bottom that needed to be mixed in. All right, I'm just going to reach down in there where it's not quite as... That's still pretty sticky. Let's see what we can do here. That doesn't necessarily... There it goes. Now it's starting to... Let's add a little bit of water to it, maybe. Nothing like watching paint be stirred, right? Watching dried paint be stirred. Except it's not dried up. It's just got a very odd texture to it. And I get a lot of my paints from like Goodwill or the Salvation Army, you know, some kind of secondhand store. So sometimes you don't really know what you're getting. Or, you know, like I've never used this ceramic coat before. I'm going to guess maybe it's for ceramics. Ooh, but I do think that we've got the right color now. I should have used a different brush to mix it up with, though, because this is a pointy brush and it's not going to want to spread it very well. I think that color looks pretty good. I'm just going to, maybe I should even put a little bit more water with it. We're just going to get this on there and get it down in the grooves so that we don't want to see the white. I am going to put a little bit more water with that. And just a little too thick. I think this is going to be pretty because I'm going to highlight the top with gold, which is another reason that I didn't want to use the orange. I didn't want to use an orange color. I mean, we know why I didn't want to use the red, but I didn't want to use the orange because I really wanted to highlight it with gold, and I thought that the orange and the gold wind up being a little too close in color. Now you also could put some black on here after this is dry and put it on thinned out and then wipe it off and it would go into all those grooves. Ooh, we could do that too because we've got black in the beads. So there we go. So we've got so far. I did try and make sure I got the edges fairly well, and we don't have to worry about the back because we're going to glue it down. But now we need to let it dry, and then we can try putting some of the black on it. Hopefully that won't ruin it, and if it does, we just start over. You know, I mean, it's not really that big of a deal. If you want to try something, just go ahead and try it. Okay, got a little clump right there. All right, there we go. So now I'm going to set that aside to dry. Well, the one thing that I did want to say is, because this is fun foam, you do not want to dry it with a heat gun. It will shrivel up and everything. It will melt. You could dry it with a hairdryer and even maybe use the cooler temperature on it. But right this second, I'm just going to set it aside to dry because we're going to work on the dangle for the spine. I had to grab a quick drink of coffee. Okay, so one thing I wanted to show you, I did, you know, like adjusted it all and put some glue in the back. But when I adjusted the flower, it just wasn't big enough for me. So I went and got another one that I had dyed and cut off 2 of the petals and I glued them in here. And then I did glue all the petals together, just right a little touch at the very edge. And to me now that looks better because it was just really too sparse. And so now what I have to decide is, how are we going to put it on there? And I've decided that we should put it on with a paper clip. So I picked an orange paper clip, and because the back, I'll show you what the back looks like. Here's the back, and it's very like kind of bumpy and uneven, you know, it's just not a nice flat like piece of paper or something, I'm going to use fabric to glue it on, because the fabric I can press into those grooves a bit to hold everything together. Now the one thing you want to remember is make sure that before you're ready to glue, like I want one of these gold ones on each side, I want the brown one in the middle, and then I want to have some fibers on each side. So on this side I've got like the purple and the pink. On this side I've got the pink and the gold, and then I have the hand painted one here and here. So that's going to be in the middle. Those are going to be on each side. And then those are going to be on each side of that. Okay, so now when I go to glue it, everything is where it needs to be, and I'm not trying to fiddle with it at that point in time. Now I need to figure out this piece of, it's just a piece of fabric. It's kind of a heavier, almost like a lightweight denim, but I need to figure out how big I want it to be. So I think it's going to have to be about half that size. Okay, and we're going to put the paper clip on there like that. And then if I wind up, because this is white, but if I wind up where some of it sticks out here or there, we could just color it if it shows up and we don't like the looks of it. Okay, I think that's going to work pretty good. We're going to do it like this so that our paper clip can still clip onto our journal. And I'm going to use Fabri-Tac because it grabs quicker. Excuse me. Alrighty. I want the long part of the paper clip to stick out on this one. A lot of times I use the short part, but because it's a spine dangle, I want it to be the longer side. So I'm going to make sure that I put glue on the fabric between the paper clip here. That will, once that glues to the rest of it, to the dangle, it will lock that paper clip on there. So you want to make sure that you do that and don't just go around the edges. Okay. And then try not to get it too bad all over my hand so that when I want to press it down, I'm not having a problem. Okay, I want to bring it pretty close to the top, making sure that everything is where I want it. And you do want to make sure that you don't like have these way out here when you glue it down, because then they're not going to want to come back underneath of it if it's all glued together here in the center. So you want to make sure that you kind of have those where you want them, where they're supposed to hang. I think I will leave the gold beads out to the side so that I can really get a hold of all of this, the fabric of the flower and the yarns and everything. Make sure I get the center so that it doesn't come off later. Straighten that up a little bit. And then we'll flip it over and see if there's something we need to do to the white fabric to cover it up if it's showing. I could have dyed it beforehand. I really didn't think about that. But I kind of like the fact that it shows, because it's easy to see like where you need to, like you need to not catch the fabric when you're putting it on the journal. You can see right where it's at. So here's what the top is. I don't like the way that this petal is pushed way over here. So I'm going to kind of pull that up right now and move it over while I can. There's our top. Okay. Yep, I think that I like the looks of that. So now there is what our dangle looks like, finished. I think that these gold beads are a little too long. Does that matter? Do we want like one that's a little shorter and one that's a little longer? Yeah, I think that that looks okay. Otherwise, I could just make this one the same length as that one. But there we go. There is our book spine dangle. So that will go on there, just like that. The top of the paper clip is right here. So I think at this point, so that I don't forget to do it, I will go in and I will trim this to the length I think it needs to be. So I'm going to start with the brown ones. I'm going to hold this at the top. So I think I need to cut off 2 beads and then that will come right to the bottom. Now, because these kind of have a little bounce in them, you have 2 options. If you pull on them and then cut them, they're going to bounce back up and they're going to be short. Otherwise, just kind of let them be natural, line them all up and everything, and don't pull on them and just go in, and then that way they'll stay all the way to the bottom, like that. So otherwise they would have went cute, and I probably might not have liked that. So there we go. Now we have our spine dangle made with the Mardi Gras beads, and that is just has to dry and we can put it on there. And I need to close this up. Slide that back in there. Okay, now we have to deal with this. I'm going to check our thing here. It's not quite dry. I think that I'm going to really quick dry this. You know what? I'll set it aside. We're going to look at this first. Okay, now I have to decide, because when I put these beads together, I have blue here and I have blue here. Do I want to cut that off so that that blue comes off? Or do I want to, because there will be 2 beads next to each other no matter what. I think I'm going to leave this one here and just cut the knot off and fluff it out. There. Then I can show you how I did that too. Okay, so all you need to do, wire brush, even a comb works. I always used to use a comb. This is the first time I've ever used a wire brush. So, but just kind of back and forth and stuff to kind of separate them. You can actually, like, before you even start, kind of go in and separate them like this a little bit. You could totally separate them like that. You don't have to have a comb. But it's easier to kind of muss them up if you've got something to kind of grab them with and then muss them up with. So, and if you do have one of these wire brushes, if you get one of these wire brushes, or if you steal it out of your husband's tool chest or whatever, just remember one thing. They're really super sharp. I mean, even if you just like boink your finger on it like that, it will poke you. They're very pokey, I guess I should say. I don't know if sharp is the right. Well, yeah, because they'll poke right into your finger, so they are sharp. So there we go. Now we've got that one messed up enough. And so we're going to take this and we're going to put it around the other piece and glue it right to that. But, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put, because it's 1 bead and a color, 1 bead and a color. But when you get to the end, you have a bead because you have a color, and you have a bead to hold that color on there. Okay, so at the bottom, I'm going to put this at the bottom, there's 2 beads. And if I cut one of those beads off, the piece of thread next to it will fall off, and I don't want that to happen. So I could make another piece of thread to put between them, but I think I am going to just leave that like that as the bottom. And I'll have the 2 beads at the bottom, and the bottom will have a little bit of a break in it. Just because that's in my head right this second, that's what I'm thinking. So, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to let the other dry. I'll be back in just a second for you. And but I'm going to let that dry because I want to put a little bit of watered down black on it before I put the gold on it. And I really want it to be dry before I do that. So I will be back in just a second and we will finish this up. Okay, I am back and this is dry. So, and I was putting this around here. I was putting it on top where I had originally measured it for. And then like it started to slip off the edge. And I really liked the way that it looked with this openness in the bottom, because that separates those 2 blue threads, and I just like the way that it looks. So I'm going to go ahead and when I put it on, I'm going to put it on that way. But to start with, we're going to work on putting some darkness in here. Now, when we make this dark, it is going to, I need to grab some clean water. When we put the black on here and we wipe it off, it is going to leave this purple in a darker color. And to me, that's totally fine. If you don't want that to happen and you really want to be able to wipe off all of the black or most of it, you know, leaving it just in the dents and kind of keeping your purple the same color, the way to do that would be to put a clear coat on this that is not, that water will not affect. And you know what I mean by that is something like a glossy accents or something that's not water reactive, something that doesn't clean up with water. You can't use your water glue or Mod Podge because when you wipe that with a wet paper towel, it's going to get all sticky. So, you know, it would have to be something that is solvent based in order to clear coat it. And then when you put your black on there, it'll get into those grooves. And if you wipe flat across the top, it will wipe everything off the top and leave the black in the grooves. If you really rub it, you may be rubbing some of that black out of the grooves because that's not going to stick as well either until it dries and then clear coat it again. But to me, I like to have a little bit of, where do I have a thing? I like to have a little bit of that black on the purple, just so it doesn't look so flat purple. I don't like for my colors to, you know, like just have one color. I like to have, the more colors you put on something, you get a little bit more depth that way. So I'm going to water this down just a little bit. I don't want it real solid, and I'm going to get my paper towel wet. And then I'm going to also grab another paper towel in case I need it. Okay, so I'm just going to use any paintbrush works just fine. I like a flat paintbrush because it will get on there, a bigger flat paintbrush, because it'll get it on there quicker. And then we can get it wiped off. I'm going to kind of mix this black in with the water that we just put on there. And that's just so that it gets into those grooves, kind of runs into them easier. And it's not going to take much. I'm just going to take this, just work that black right into those grooves. And that's why I like to thin it down, because the thicker your black paint is, the more you have to work at getting it down in the grooves. Which is the only place I'm worried about it getting. Get just just a little bit more. And because I did not clear coat this, I am going to want to wipe it fairly quickly. If it's clear coated, you can let it kind of dry and then wipe it, and it leaves it in the grooves better. But if it's not clear coated, then you want to wipe it right away. Okay, I think that I've got it down into all the grooves where I want it. I'm going to bring this black all over the whole thing so that when I wipe it off, that purple is going to be the same color all over, which is going to be darker than what we started with. Okay, so get a clean spot. And just keep getting a clean spot on your rag until you get it what you want it to look like. Oh, I really like this. And so there we go. That's what it looks like. See, now our purple is darker, but I like the looks of that. And keep it flat when you're wiping it. Make sure that you have the clean spot on your rag. There. Okay. So now that is ready to put on our book. And we have to decide where we want to put it. Just try and get that black off my hands. And I believe that our tassel should be dry. It feels pretty dry, so let's see how that looks while we're going to move this parchment out of the way for now. Don't want to get that black on our cover. So here we go. We've got our paper clip. I'm just going to put that right in there like that. And there we go. That's what our dangle looks like hooked right on the book. And I think that that looks really nice. I like that. And I like the orange goes with the red and the orange and the part we're going to put here. So it's all very cool. Okay, so I have to decide where I want this. I don't normally like them right in the center. I normally like them a little closer to the top. And I think that that looks real good right there. And then I'm going to glue that on with tacky glue. Because honestly, I don't know, trying to think if I've ever used Fabri-Tac on Fun Foam before. Foam reacts differently with solvent type products. Like if you spray a foam with spray paint, it will melt. Now that's like regular foam, but I'm not sure how this Fun Foam would act if I put like a super glue or something right on it, especially this much, you know, because I want it to stay on my cover. And so I know that the tacky glue will grab a hold of it because that's what I always use for all my stamps and everything. And I know that it's not going to react and maybe melt my piece here. And I'm looking at this area here. That's the area that I want to be at the bottom. I'm going to grab my pressing board and give that a good press. I'm not going to worry that I have a little glue sticking out here at the top because we're going to put the beads around there, so that doesn't matter. If I wasn't putting the beads around there, then I would try and get that off of there. Well, because the black is still wet, I had a couple spots where I pressed my hand into it, got just a touch of black on my hand, and then it got on the top. I'm wiping the whole thing because I don't want to just rub one little spot and then have that spot wind up being like really light purple because I had rubbed it so hard, or rubbed it again. So there we go. So now this is what we have. And we're going to put our beads around the edge. Now that I am going to use the super glue for, because I'm going to glue them on the cardboard because I like the way that looks. And then later on what I will do is, after the super glue dries, then I will go in and comb these out. And put a little bit of stick glue, permanent stick glue, underneath them and just kind of let them lay on there. All right, so I need to decide where I need to start, which bead, where are these beads going? Make sure that I'm around the outside edge, touching it all the way around. If you want to make sure, you can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 grooves that way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 that way. So I'm going to move it one groove that way. And the reason I'm doing that is because when I started counting the grooves, I counted the one right on the very edge of the spine. So moving it this way makes it look just a little more centered. That's just me. And things do not need to be perfect. I will tell you, when it comes to these, they are different lengths. The blues are shorter. Well, in that area, it's not. We've got, let me just kind of show you. We've got purple, or the blue, purple, whatever, and everything up here. This red sticks way up here. Here the red is down here. This yellow is up here, and that gold is about that area. Now, I could trim those all off, and I would do that, straighten it all out, and trim them all straight right before I started. I don't care for that. I like these edges to be different lengths and kind of messy like that. But if you want them to be straight, you can do that. I have a problem with, how to say it. If I were to try and trim that straight, and it moved it all, and it wasn't straight, then I would trim it again, and trim it again, and trim it again, and pretty soon I wouldn't have any fuzzies left. So if I want it to be straight, then I want it to be perfectly straight. And, that usually does not happen. So in order to get past that, where's my other little pliers here? I like to look at it messy. I like the way that that looks. It's kind of perfectly imperfect. And I can't let it, bother me that much. If I try to get it straight, then I let it bother me. So I'm going to take some of this, and this is just from the Dollar Tree Fix-All Adhesive. It's a gel super glue. And I like that. I like that gel consistency of it because it's easier to deal with. And I don't know that it's, to me, this reminds me a lot of, I use this a lot in place of like E6000. That's just me, but I do think that it works that well. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit right here. And I'm going to put a little bit right here. And then I know where I have to go to. So now I'm just going to go through and just wipe it all the way around. And because I want this to get fairly close to the circle and not all over the place, that's why I'm using the toothpick, because I can control where it goes easier than if I try and squeeze it right on here out of the tube. just need to be careful that I've got that pile of glue there and that I don't put the journal in it. I do have a few strings. Whoops. Good, I was able to move back. I got that out a little further than I wanted it. Because super glue dries fairly fast, you want to try and keep moving and hope you don't get a phone call right in the middle of it. I need just a little bit more. And then I'm going to put the beads on here, and I am going to let them sit and dry before I mess with the hairy parts. Then I will comb those out and put a little bit of super glue under them and show it to you the next time that we get together. Because combing them out, I won't do it all at once. Like, I'll comb some out and put the super glue under and kind of lay them where I want them. You know, so it'll take a little bit of time to do that. So that's not something that's just going to, you know, put them up there and boom, they're done. Okay, now I just want to make sure that I do keep those fuzzies outside of the super glue. I really do like the way that this turned out. And there we go. Hold my pressing board and just give it a little press all the way around, just to make sure that each one made good contact. And then I am probably going to let this sit overnight before I start combing those out a bit and gluing them down, because I really want this to be stuck down and have the glue dried. And then when I comb it, I will hold those beads and comb it so that I'm not pulling really hard on them. This one I want to pull out just a little bit. There we go. So there we go. There is a book cover, or a book plate for our cover. I really like the way that this turned out. Maybe we'll even take a few of these and dangle them down even further later on. And how the way that this turned out, I like that too. So thank you very much for stopping by. I really do appreciate you, and I hope that you all have an outstanding day. Bye-bye.